When a mother left her infant on the street, she had no idea that a cat would find him, and what the animal would do to the baby would shock the whole town. Jennifer was only 20 years old, but her life was already full of hardships. In her arms, the infant cried again. She was desperate. She had lost her job before giving birth, and she would not have enough money to survive the winter with the baby. She had no one to rely on. Michael, the father of her child, started stealing her belongings shortly after he moved in with her. Any money she earned ended up in his pocket and then channeled into his drug habit. The baby cried out and Jennifer picked him up, holding him to her chest. How could she raise a child when she couldn't even take care of herself? Her life was a mess. Then the thought of wrapping the baby in a blanket and leaving it somewhere where other people would discover it began to form in her mind. That way the baby would have a chance at life and Jennifer could get her life in order. She wiped her tears, made sure the baby was clean, wrapped him in 2 warm blankets, and headed for the exit. At the same time, a fluffy cat named Chloe lived in a house on the other side of town. She was a favorite among the locals. She didn't belong to anyone, but all the residents treated her as if she were their own. They fed her, gave her toys, made sure she had enough blankets where she slept in the hallway. But now she was going to have a rough time, as she always did with the onset of winter, especially after the first snow. She loved wandering around outside, but the weather limited her walks for the next few months, simply because it was too cold outside. But Chloe wasn't worried. She had 600 doors to knock on when she needed company. When an old lady she knew was going outside, Chloe slipped out after her. She knew the habits of the old woman the old lady would be at the market for a little over an hour, and Chloe would wait at the door to be let back and Chloe rolled in the snow. Her tail was strictly up and she walked stiff, legged like a cat on display. Jennifer used a few coins from her bag to pay her fare to the other side of town. She wanted to leave the baby in a neighborhood with lots of people, and most importantly, it had to be a place where she wouldn't be noticed. She got off at a bus stop not far from the high-rise apartment buildings. Jennifer walked along the main road for about 1 kilometer and then noticed an alleyway next to a store. She sat at the bus stop for a few minutes, looking around, holding the baby against her chest. Tears were still streaming down her cheeks. When the woman was sure no one would notice her, she hugged the baby tightly one last time and then laid him down on the discarded cardboard. The child slept soundly, not realizing the terrible picture in which it had participated. Jennifer looked around once more, then lifted her collar, shoved her hands in her pockets, and headed for the bus stop. She was careful not to attract the attention of passers-by, but she didn't notice that anyone else was waiting for her nearby. Chloe checked the alley near the butcher shop, looking for rats, which was her favorite pastime despite the fact that it was difficult in wintertime. She turned into the alley where she knew the big rats lived. The cat was circling the garbage cans when a huge rat jumped out of the bins. Chloe was about to pounce on it when suddenly something distracted her. A pile of blankets lay to her left, and for a moment it seemed to move. The rat slipped out of her clutches, but Chloe paid no further attention to it. And then there was a loud scream. Chloe was startled. She jumped back and straightened her back, ruffling her fur. She walked over to the blankets when she spotted the infant. The cat knew she needed the human's help. This helpless creature would die in this cold. First, Chloe tried to call out to the people at the butcher shop. Sometimes she was treated there, and she hoped she could attract attention, but it was unsuccessful. There was a long line inside the store, angry customers trying to get their food faster, and no one paid any attention to Chloe. It was getting colder outside, and that gave Chloe an even greater sense of urgency. The baby would soon die if she couldn't call anyone. At that moment, on the opposite side of the road, Chloe noticed the very old woman she had sprinted out of the driveway after. The old woman was returning home with her shopping. Chloe ran across the road without looking around. The old woman exclaimed, bending down to pick up the cat, but it retreated. It was now imperative to get her attention properly. Chloe mewed, fixing her gaze on the woman, and began to walk backwards, trying to get her to follow. But it was as if the woman didn't understand. "Come on, Chloe," she said. "Come on, Chloe," she said, holding out her hand for the cat. The cat retreated another step. As a last resort, she made a dash toward the road. If the old woman thought the animal was in any danger, she would surely go after it. And thankfully, the plan worked. The worried old woman crossed the road. Chloe led the woman into an alleyway and then sat down next to the blanket. The baby was still crying, but he was exhausted. Now, it was not a loud cry, but a faint moan. The old woman was horrified when she saw the baby. She had her cell phone in her hands, and when she finished talking to the operator, she held the infant tightly to her chest to give him warmth. That night, Chloe became the heroine of the apartment building. The old lady spread the rumor of the cat's heroic mission, and it was soon learned that the baby was completely healthy. He was soon to be given to an orphanage, but the doctors said that several families had already expressed a desire to take him, despite the fact that his mother had abandoned him. In the corner of the hallway, Chloe was showered with more treats than she could eat in one sitting, and not a single person passed by without pleasing her. Chloe was undoubtedly the happiest cat in the world. Dear viewers, would you follow an animal trying to get your attention? Tell us in the comments. Also, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye.